Welcome back. So, I am a living contradiction. So, I just got back from a big party, essentially. We had a lot of fun. My voice is still recovering. Went out drinking, dancing, all of that stuff. And on the drive home, my friend and I were talking, and she said, you're really hard to figure out. I was like, oh, what do you mean? And she's like, well, like, you're kind of like impossible to describe. And she was explaining to me that she was trying to tell her new boyfriend about who I was before I met him. And like I met him at this party. She's like, yeah, it's like it was hard to like explain who you are because like you do so much and you're very unexplainable and it got me thinking about like a contradiction and like what a contradiction. So a contradiction, in my view, or maybe in whoever you want to say's view, a contradiction is when something has part of its essence that seems out of place with what it fundamentally is. And I think that's a pretty good way to explain me. As you know, I posted a video recently about how I don't like labels. And perhaps one of the reasons I didn't talk about in that video, one of the reasons I don't like labels, is because they've never really applied to me very well. So, like if you want to label me, I'm gay, but I'm also not. And I'm bisexual, but I'm also not. And I'm pansexual, but I'm also not. I'm a farmer, but I'm also like very comfortable in the city. I go clubbing. I enjoy archery and baking. I enjoy skeet shooting and lots of rural pastimes and like country living. But I'm also, a university graduate with a degree in anthropology and like a working understanding of geopolitics and economic theory. So like I'm highly educated and I understand much of the sophistication of the world. I'm not really interested in a whole lot of it, but I understand that world and I've been in that world, and I've been to very, very fancy places in London and France and, I've lived a very eclectic and strange life, but yeah, I can imagine it would be quite difficult to try and describe me all in one. There was an article written about me recently on this website, and even they kind of had a difficulty explaining exactly what I do on social media because I make jokes about being gay and gay culture, but I'm also involved in like the stuff on Twitter, on Instagram. I talk about mental health. I talk about spirituality. I try and connect with people on a genuine level because I think it's the only thing that really interests me about social media. And so even this article trying to explain who I was in like a succinct, quick, easily digestible manner was kind of having trouble. And at the end of the article, you're sort of left thinking like, okay, well, I really don't kind of know who this guy is either because he's so, he's all over the place. Like he's a farmer, but he's also not. And he does all this other stuff and advocates for positivity. And I think it's kind of interesting. This video, I'm sorry if this video seems very strange, but I guess it's me trying to figure out and attempt to come to terms with my contradictions. And I think I've come to the conclusion that a contradiction is only a contradiction based on previous understanding of something. So if a contradiction, stay with me here. If a contradiction is when an object, a person, a thing has a characteristic that seems completely opposite to its essence, but that is based on sort of a bias or a rudimentary understanding of the thing. Like, you need to understand something in order to be able to see its contradictions, right? Like, if there was a bird in nature that you'd never seen before and you didn't know what this bird was, you wouldn't know if it had a contradictory thing to it. Like, if it was a bird that like lived underground, which seems like a contradiction, you know, birds fly in the sky, but it lives underground, like one of those burrowing owls. If you didn't know enough about the owl, you wouldn't consider that a contradiction, right? Like, if you didn't know that most birds don't live underground, then it doesn't seem like a contradiction. And so it's just based on your previous knowledge and your experience that you find something contradictory, right? And so most people have an idea of what a gay man is. Most people have an idea of what a farmer is. And I do not meet the required metrics to be a stereotypical farmer or a stereotypical gay man or a stereotypical baker or whatever, you know, like, I don't meet those standard requirements. And so then a lot of people sort of look at me and they're like, it's hard to figure you out, you know, you're kind of all over the place. And I think that's interesting. You know, I'm not putting any negative or positive connotations on being a contradiction, because it's not necessarily a bad thing and it's not necessarily a good thing. But I do think it's interesting that I have chosen to live my life basically on my own terms. You know, like, I've never been a person who looked at something and went, well, I don't want other people to think that I'm into this. You know, if I'm into a passion, if I'm into something that I love to do, there is nothing on this earth that can stop me from pursuing it. And I can't imagine living my life any other way. You know, I can't imagine like, oh, well, you know, I worry what people think if I took up archery. Like, I would never think that, you know? And like, I guess it is part of a privilege that I have, that I've always been able to do what I want to do and pursue what I want to pursue. But it's interesting, this idea of like a living contradiction of somebody who, you know, if you're going to give them some labels, those labels don't necessarily all go together in a nice, even thing. Like, I'm basically like a patchwork quilt of different interests and passions. And, you know, even my friends, even the top 10 people closest to me in my life are all incredibly different people. You know, some of them have overarching characteristics that are in common. Like, they're all very compassionate people. They're all very fun-loving people. But they're very different. You know, they are on different journeys. They're in different paths on their lives. Some of them have kids. Some of them will probably never have kids. Some of them are university grads. Some of them never went to university, you know, like, and they're so diverse and intricate. And I like that, you know, they're kind of contradictory. You know, you wouldn't think that these people would all have something in common, but they do. They have me in common, who is a living contradiction himself. So I don't know. I don't know if this video has any like overarching wisdom to bestow or a message within the mess of it all. But I guess if it's going to have any kind of message, it would be never stop doing something just because you think other people might find it contradictory. And never paint yourself into an identity that restricts you from doing what you want. You know, like, if you see yourself as a part of the LGBT community, but you really like working on trucks, for example, and you're saying, well, you know, I can't rationalize both of these things in my head. Ask yourself why. Why can't you? Why can't you be the best, you know, lesbian truck repair woman on the planet? You know, like, why do you prevent yourself from doing something that you enjoy based on the image you give yourself in your head, the mental idea of yourself, you know? And I guess my like hope is that none of you are doing that, and that if you are, you can get to a point in your life where you're like, you know what? I don't care what other people think. I don't care what I think. I like doing this. I'm going to do this. Because I think it's important, you know, like I say this a lot, but like we are on this planet for such a short amount of time. We don't get to spend a lot of time here, and we don't know where we go afterwards. You know, whether you're a religious person or you're a non-religious person or you're spiritual, we can't 100% know where we go after this. And so we need to enjoy our time here while we have it. And if like, yeah, if an image of yourself is preventing you from doing that, that's not good. You know, that's not an ideal situation. You want to pursue everything that you're interested in, regardless of it. And that goes for relationships too. Like, if there's somebody that you are innately attracted to, or you're in love with, or, you know, you want to get to know, and you're worried about what other people will say if you two were in a relationship, or you're worried about it being a contradiction, you know, like we're just not compatible. It's like, you don't know if you're not compatible until you actually explore that, you know? Don't let perception and contradictory thoughts prevent you from doing and pursuing who you want, what you want to do, or any of it. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. Thank you. If you're still watching, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm interested in your comments on this one. I'm always interested in your comments, but on this one particularly, because this has been kind of a self-exploratory rant in many ways. I hope it doesn't come off as a rant, but you kind of get the impression of who I am, I hope. But yeah, I want to know. And if there has been a contradiction in your life that has been a really positive, constructive contradiction, like, I don't know, you're a morning person, but you fell in love with a night owl, you know, let me know. I want to know that stuff. I think that's really sweet. The idea of opposites attracting, or, you know, you really enjoy this passion, but you're also part of this group or something, you know, I think that is so special and unique, and it's one of the things that makes life so exciting and interesting. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.